Yeah, nice. All right, sounds good. Okay, right. Do you want to make a start?
Yeah, so I'm Macauley. I'm 22. I'm 23 in a month.
Yeah.
And I've been fishing for 9 years, which, compared to some of the other guests you've had on, isn't that long. And how I started, really, I went to see my cousin, and we was
Hmm.
staying at his, and he was a big match angler, and
Right.
we went along with him, saw him catch a fish, and then the next day we was like, we want to do it, we want to do it. So me and my brother went along with him, caught our first carp, and then I was just completely obsessed with it. And then there was a good group of us at the time, but as the years went on, as people started to drop out, and it it only I think there's like three of us left now from where I live, that from the friendship group that still go fishing. But yeah,
Right.
like most things I do, it just completely consumed my life. I knew straight away that I wanted that to be my whole life.
Yeah.
Um, so when people you're trying to talk fishing to people, and you're like, oh yeah, I've been doing it 9 years, and they're like, wow, I've been doing it 30, 40 years.
Mm.
What have you got on me? Do you know what I mean? But those 9 years have been like really, really intense.
Yeah, I don't think it matters as much. Obviously, there's that experience side, but I think it's more to do with the individual than the time doing anything. 'Cause you can have, like, it sounds like
Yeah,
you're quite an
exactly.
intense, all or nothing kind of person. So
Yeah,
you've probably crammed in more in your time than a lot have had in a longer time period.
yeah. So I was doing a lot of fishing at home with my friendship group, and then I started a software development course
Hmm.
in Derby, which is where I live,
I
at a
was going to say,
college.
where's your accent from?
Yeah, Derby.
Yeah.
And then I did that for about, because I was really interested in IT, really interested in software, etc. Did it for
Hmm.
about 8 months, and it just wasn't for me. The people I was in the class with, and they just wasn't anything like me.
Hmm.
So I spoke to my parents, and then we found this fisheries management and aquaculture course 100 miles away, in Bedfordshire. So
Right.
obviously, being all or nothing, I was like, right, now I know that exists. That's what I'm doing. Um, so yeah, at 17, I went and moved down there. I stayed in the college accommodation.
Fair
I
play.
spent 2 years studying fisheries management and aquaculture.
Wow.
Yeah, and
That's a brave move. You sort of touched on that quite lightly. At 17, I wouldn't have dared moved out of home. I wouldn't
and
have had a clue.
it was weird, because you've got people like I say, my friendship group at home. They're all getting jobs and apprenticeships, and like starting to settle down, so to speak. And there's me, like, right, see you all later. Got to go start a new life, 100
Yeah.
miles away, make new friends all over again, and like, start learning. Because at that point, I had no idea about fisheries management and aquaculture. I knew
Hmm.
fishing, but I didn't know fisheries management and aquaculture. So I went there. It was totally new. Had to learn everything from scratch, and yeah, it was just a quality 2 years. It's a 2 years I don't regret at all.
Mm.
The things that you got to do there was unreal. We did work placements at like Nash Tackle,
Right.
um, their Datic Lakes in Royston. We did a lot of
Right.
work there, and just the sort of things you got to experience and do. It was just, yeah, for a 17-year-old kid, it was the life, living away from home with your mates, going fishing every afternoon. Sometimes being naughty and missing lectures to go fishing. Um, but the teachers always knew where you was, so they'd always come down
Yeah.
and
They got it.
drag you back to class. So yeah,
Yeah.
and then really, I enjoyed it that much. I finished with top grades, and I was like, look, I can do this. Um, I want to do it. I want to take it one step further. So I went to uni,
Hmm.
and I enrolled at Sparsholt College on their degree course. And yeah, that was just completely next level. You start these things because, like, I started it because I liked fishing and I liked fish, etc. And
Yeah.
by the time you're at uni, you're studying the endocrine system of bizarre fish that you've never even heard of before, and you're learning how to like spawn shrimp, and just things like that. And it's just like the complexity and things you learn, and the things I learned in that course were unreal again. And that's something I will always look back on. Like, although I don't do aquaculture now,
Hmm.
it's not, and I stepped out of it the minute I left uni. I will never look back on it as a regret, because again, it was another 3 years. This was further from home, so I think this was
Right.
150 miles from home again.
Yeah, on the
So
south coast, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. So it's about 30. 20 miles up from Southampton.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was living with your mates in a
Winchester, isn't it?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it was living with your mates, going out, and just studying fisheries management and aquaculture, which is the side that I preferred more than the fisheries management side. And
Hmm.
yeah, it was just such an unreal experience. And again, you did work placement there. Every year you had to go away and do a month work placement. And I went to my first year. I went to Gillam's, and I was a guide in
Right.
Gillam's for a month.
Oh,
Which
wow.
we could do a whole podcast on that alone.
Yeah.
um,
Crikey. It's not just
Unbelievable.
down the road, is it?
No, but that's what I mean. It's like you nailed it within the first couple of minutes of like the all or nothing mentality, and I was like,
Yeah.
I've been living away from home for 4 years now. I'm just going to travel halfway across the world on my own and just live in a little like hut for a month, just helping people fish. Um, yeah, and that was crazy. Waking up in, I'm sure most people listening to this have heard of Gillam's, have seen the photos of being surrounded by these massive like rock faces and
Mm.
greenery, and just waking up there and going to sleep there. Yeah, it was just unreal. And
Wow.
some of the fish you got to see, the big arapaima came out, which
Are they those really long ones?
yeah, they are, yeah, and that they go over £400.
Oh, God.
And Siamese carp come out. I
Yeah.
think it was 162 at the time. Saw that a few times, and it was just quality meeting like people from like South Africa, and they're telling you about drone fishing and how they take their rigs out in drones, and it's just a big like concatenation of all these people and from all of these different
Yeah.
places, and from 6 in the morning till 8 at night, you sat down with them talking fishing and trying to help them catch a fish, and
Wow.
it's just like that alone was worth the 3 years at uni, and the 2 years
Yeah.
prior to that, getting to that stage. And then I've done work in fisheries in France. I was at a French fishery for a month, as you do.
And how old did
Uh,
you say you were? Early 20s?
so I was 19 at this point.
Yeah.
So
How old are you now?
I'm 22 now.
You've
Um,
probably done more
so,
than most. Yeah.
yeah, so that's what I mean when I was saying it's quite an intense 9 years. And then
Yeah.
I went up to Scotland for a month as well, doing fish farming for a species called wrasse, which are used in salmonid farming. And yeah, that
Right.
was right up in Scotland, on by the side of a loch, living on the side of a loch for a month,
Oh,
seeing all
wow.
the seals and the otters swim past, and yeah, it was just crazy. And that was my life. Like from the minute I caught a fish, like I thought it was fishing at that point,
Yeah.
but it wasn't. It became fish, and then it became the aquatic environment, and then it became aquaculture.
Right.
And my biggest like passion was to try and obviously talked about IT as well, and I really
Mm.
wanted to sort of merge the two, uh,
Yeah.
and want to like creativity, automation. And I was like, right, how can I automate some aquaculture practices? Because they weren't using IT. Because for me, that would have been like the ultimate goal. That would have been all of my sort of passions mixed into one. Um, so I had this big thing about creating this like ecosystem where it's all self-sustaining, and the first thing I needed was food to obviously feed the fish.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure how much people know about this sort of aquaculture world at the minute, but sustainability in feed is massive. We can't keep taking fish out of the ocean to
Yeah.
give us the protein in the food that we're using. So I
Hmm.
was like, right, how can I get past this? So for my dissertation, I did a feed trial on carp, um, and it's a 6 weeks feed trial, I think it was in the end. But what I did was I grew insect larvae, so black soldier fly. I,
Right.
I grew larvae in different types of manure. So I was in the in cow sheds at uni and in the
Yeah.
pig
Really,
pens.
Mr. Popular
Oh yeah,
babies.
yeah, it was horrible, honestly. And I was in this small room, and all the ammonia from all the manure was just it was horrendous. But yeah, what I did is grow these flies in this manure. Um, Took them out at the end, harvested them, ground them
Mm.
up into like an insect meal, and that was my protein source. And obviously that had no fish in, so it was considered sustainable. I was recycling farm waste.
Right.
So leaving uni, I was like, right, that's what I want to get into. I want to take this further.
Hmm.
And I was looking at doing doctorates in it. I was like, because that is perfect. I can sort of use my IT knowledge and what I know about that to sort of increase the productivity of this practice. Um, but then it, another thing came up, which we'll get on later, and that's where I
Hmm.
went. But it's weird because, like I said, you get onto this. I got into this for fishing, and for the last 5 years,
Yeah.
this sort of aquaculture and fishing management has been my life. And the only reason it was my life was because I liked fishing. And the
Yeah.
ironic thing is that when you go into this, you don't go fishing as much.
Yeah. Of
So
course.
going at college, it was okay. We fished. There was a big. It's been took over now by Embryo, but there was a big pit down at the bottom of the college drive. Um,
Right.
and at the time, it was you weren't allowed to fish there, but we was young lads just wanted to catch some big fish, so we'd go and
Hmm.
sit in a bush late at night and try and catch a few out of there. And it was always known as like the secretive place, and it
Yeah.
was just like a mysterious place where people would sneak off. You won't see them for 2 days, and they'll come back and show you a photo of a fish they've caught, and it would all be hush hush. Um, and then we had a few. We was lucky enough to have a few lakes at college which we fished, but apart from that, it was difficult to get around because we was living there. We didn't have access to cars. You only had small college rooms, so you didn't want to fill it with smelly fishing gear. And there was always other things to do. And it's like now it pains me because what I know now is that there was so many like lakes around that area, and there was so many opportunities to catch fish. But
Yeah.
instead, I was just messing around in the common
Yeah, mate.
room.
That's what you do at that age. I wouldn't let it pain you or have any regrets about it. That's just life. You know,
Yeah,
you're still very young, and you've crammed in a hell of a lot of stuff. It sounds like already. So there's plenty more stuff you've got to go. So I wouldn't worry too much about that, mate.
yeah, true. And then yeah, when it came to uni, it was just totally gone. Because like I say, that stepped the work increased, so much more
Yeah.
work. The going out with your mates increased because obviously, like you say, you're young, you got to experience that. That's a part of uni. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, fishing just took a back seat in everything really. Apart from, I made one really good pal at college, and he went back to Essex, and I obviously went off to uni, but we'd always stay in touch.
Yeah.
And although I couldn't fish in the weeks or the weekends, really, we I would have half terms and things like that. So I'd have a week free um,
Hmm.
here and then, and I would message him, and we'd go about setting up our little fishing journey, and we'd just get in our car. I had an old Polo, really small,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
we would just travel the country fishing, and we'd stay in England, and yeah, we'd go on week long benders really because that's all we had to do. And yeah, we'd
Yeah.
just get in the car, fill it with fishing gear, fill it with food, and drive from place to place trying to catch fish. And we could fish 3 lakes in a day, move on,
Yeah.
and we could wake up at a lake in the morning, and by the time we go to bed, we'll be sat by a canal, hidden away, trying to catch some carp from under someone's boat that they're living in.
Yeah.
So it was trying to make the most of what we had, and when we had those weeks, yeah, we it would just be crazy washing with like baby wipes and
Yeah.
not
Bosom
change.
wash.
Yeah, not changing for ages, and just we both just sort of by the second and third day we just look at each other and be like, look, we both know we're looking rough and we probably smell a little bit, but
Yeah.
let's just keep going. And I look back now, and I would I would not go fishing all year and do two of them trips, do two 1 week trips, and I'd that be happy. That'd be me
Yeah.
sorted because it was just
Yeah.
like it's the grit of by the third day, still trying to by the third and the fourth day, and you've had very little sleep. You're like sleeping rough, still trying to keep going, and like just you sort of get so exhausted you become insane, and you just have these crazy moments together. And it's things
Yeah.
like that. It's like oh
Giggling
Lord,
fits
yeah,
and
exactly. Um, and just some bizarre things that we'll do on them because all we wanted to do was catch fish, and we would we went to this one park lake in this massive country park, and you're allowed to day fish there, but you're not allowed to night fish there. And we was a bit
Right.
like, oh, we've come all this way, we've got to try and do the night, but we could see people walking around,
Mm.
and we obviously didn't want to be caught and thrown off. So, as you would, we put waders on and we waded all our fishing gear over to an island, and we just pitched up in the middle of an island for the night. And we knew that no one was coming to us there because, well, if they want to come to the middle of the island, then fair play, I'll shake their hands and leave the lake. Um, but yeah, those weeks were just like unbelievably insane, and I would if people can't, because you see like the Euro banks and all these big European fishing trips where it's the same kind of thing. It's like road trips across Europe.
Yeah.
If you can't do that, then just do one in England because
Yeah.
there's the venues there. You've got lakes. You can jump on a day ticket. You can go to like these country parks that have fishing and canals and
Hmm.
rivers, and you can have a really, really, really exciting week in England doing it. So, especially with all this lockdown stuff, and it's like when are we going to be able to go back out fishing? For me,
Yeah.
and even go abroad fishing. And although going abroad fishing is like I've got the bug now, but I know that I can have just as good a time doing that same kind of exciting hop in a car and just see where it takes us, a road trip in England. And
Yeah. Nice. And you
this,
could, like you say, in this lockdown, you can plan it as well.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's enough time. We've got enough time now to plan things, and if we're not talking to people, if we're not seeing people, then just message, like, because of social distancing, we're staying inside, then just message other anglers on Instagram and just say,
Yeah.
where'd you catch, like if you see a nice fish, just message them like, oh, where'd you catch that from? If they're willing to share, which hopefully they are, because that's another thing that bugs me. um, Write it down on your notes, and just once you've got a big list of things, a big list of lakes or fish that you want to catch, and then just go for it. And you can
Yeah.
do these European style road trips in England, and that's really what we did for whilst I was at college and uni, because that was the only time I had, and I wanted to make the most of the weeks we had.
Yeah. That's
And
brilliant. That's a really good point as well. That like there are so many waters now in this country, aren't there? With so many good fishing.
yeah,
And
for,
if you're being that mobile and traveling to different places, we've seen it with different guests on the podcast. You only need, sawn offs or short rods, just a quick lap, and you could be on a decent fish, in minutes, couldn't you?
yeah, exactly. And then it's likewise the same, if you're clever enough, and or not clever enough, I guess that's the wrong word, but if you're prepared enough,
Yeah,
you pack as little as possible. You go and try and catch the fish, and if you can't see it, you can be gone within 10 minutes. So you can.
yeah, yeah,
It's one of the things when you're prepared to do them sort of trips, and you've got your can of deodorant and your dry shampoo in your car, and you're prepared to go and just be on the road. You can
yeah,
turn up at a lake. If it doesn't look good, you've not committed to anything. Within 10
yeah,
minutes, you could either be fishing for the fish that you saw on Instagram, or you can be in the car somewhere else.
yeah,
And that was the beauty of it, really. It was kind of the unknown. I feel like a lot of fishing, particularly in this country, that a lot of it is known. So
yeah,
you turn up to a day ticket, you know the stock. Someone's probably walked around and told you where to put your rods, what bait to use,
mm,
etc. Um,
yeah,
and it sort of took that unknown out of fishing. So yeah, just doing these, putting yourself in these weird situations and just going
yeah,
somewhere that you're not comfortable. It does bring back that sort of unknown side of fishing and
yeah.
the
And that's what
passion.
it's all about, isn't it? Definitely. I think that's what we're all chasing, that buzz. How did you get on that week session? Do you want to talk about that for a bit?
So we did a few, to be fair. I'll talk about the last one. The last one was
Okay.
quite interesting. This was in November in 2018, because the guy I used to do it with buggered off to Australia. So yeah, the last one was in the end of 2018, and I would drive to his house in Essex. We'd pick him up. We'd probably go for breakfast or something because I've not seen him for ages. And then he'd have the list of lakes that he wanted to go to,
Yeah.
and it would just be, it could be rivers, it could be a tiny little lake just to get by, but it was all super active. Um, super active, super exciting, and it was a lot of like visual fishing. So we'd walk around with like
Nice.
like you say, a sawn off and some bread or whatever, and just try and catch them quick. And because sometimes we wasn't meant to be there, not
Yeah.
because it was not because we was poaching a day ticket late, because I would never take money from a business or anything like that. But if you turn up to a park and there's a no fishing sign, but you can see a massive fish sat in the margin, then you're going to go for it.
Yeah.
And we got the tube. Well, we wanted to go into London because we knew of this spot right in central London, and we got on the train with all our fishing gear, and everyone was just like looking at us like, "Oh, what are these guys?" And um, we had our rods, an unhooking mat, a big unhooking mat each, so we could sleep on, our rucksacks, and a few bits of food and stuff like that. And we'd get on the train, and within about 5 minutes, we was fined and booted off the train. For not having tickets. But we're not like that. We would have paid for tickets, but it was the fact that we had all this gear. We
Yeah.
was running for the train, and we just hopped on it. And
Right.
it's I don't know if the guy was just lying to us, but he said you couldn't buy tickets on the train. So yeah, he fined us, booted us off, and we had to catch the next train into London. So it was like, great, this is already a good start. And it was a super super hot day. Um, and then once we got into London, obviously I got a tube around, and that alone's draining. Um, and then we managed to ditch half of our fishing gear at my mate's friend's uni accommodation. So then we was left roaming around with very little gear, probably a sawn off or two each, and one of the snides that we used to carry in a shopping bag because they'd fit in like a plastic bag, so no one would know at all. And we'd just roam around. We wouldn't wear an ounce of green. It'd just be just dead discreet,
Yeah.
and we'd go for it. We'd just roam around, and all it really is just looking on Google Maps and just seeing, oh look, there's a like a blue spot there. We're not too far away. Let's go and have a look. Oh, there's a blue spot there. That's not too far away. Go and have a look. And I guess the good thing with London is it's so connected, so you can jump on the train and within 10 minutes you can be at another lake, and that's what it was really. And we turned up to this one lake. We had a walk around, and when within 10 minutes, my mate was holding up this unbelievable fish, and it was only, I think it was only like upper doubles, but it was a
Mm.
really nice mirror. And there was, it's the small things, like I've got a photo on my phone of um, this Chinese couple they were, and they was just really happy to see a fish, like someone
Yeah.
holding it and like caring for the fish, so to speak. And it was just, they was well intrigued, and it's that as well that gets like that's exciting and adds to all sort of the atmosphere of going
No,
fishing.
definitely. The experience, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And we would we caught a fish, our job was done, so we left. And I'll never forget that night. We spent the night on this in central London, freezing cold. Um, we wasn't meant to be there, but we knew it had big fish in, and
Yeah.
we turned up at mid. So we would sit out the way. We'd probably sit for 2 hours, 3 hours out the way,
Yeah.
until it got dark, and it was like we was in the army. Everything would be in dark, and we would roll up to the spot where we want to fish, and it'd be pitch black, apart from all the sort of lights from the city,
Mm.
um, and we would have to try and find the darkest bit to sit in. And it just so happens this dark bit had a big no fishing sign next to it.
Right.
So we just rested our rod bag up against it and then cracked on. And then at about 1:30, we saw this high vis walking round, and he came round to us, and it turned out he was a super nice guy. Thankfully, my mate's got the gift of the gab, and he could talk his
Right.
way out of anything. So
Yeah. That's a big edge,
it is
having
the
that.
ultimate edge. And within 15 minutes, the same security guard was taking us around to this other side of the other side of this like marina,
Yeah.
and he was like, "Look, just sit in there, and I won't say anything." So, my mate, having a bit of chat about him, ended up us being sweet for the night, and he put us in this other like little spot on the same sort of stretch of water, and then just so happens there was 2 other people fishing there, which was completely bizarre to us, but they must have done the same, and the security guard must have made friends with them, and just I
Yeah.
think it's probably a known thing now.
Right.
If you're like local to that area, you can just go sit under there, and it'll all be sweet. But yeah,
Yeah.
we knew that there was some serious fish in there, and we probably wanted to catch one, and that's why we went to London. Everything else was just all the other fishing we did was just to fill the time.
Yeah.
And yeah, it got to about 3 o'clock, 3:30, and was absolutely shattered. And it was so cold. And I remember unrolling my sleeping bag, unrolling my unhooking mat, and the scope unhooking mats have like a sort of it's like an extra skin on it, and
Yeah.
I unzipped half of that, and I was inside it, and I'm not the smallest of guys, and I was trying to curl up on this unhooking mat and try and get some sleep in the middle of London. And within about 2 hours, I was being booted on the floor. This, I don't know who he was. I was sort of half asleep, and before I know it, there was this guy with his like foot in my chest, like kicking. I think he was trying to kick my unhooking mat, and he was like trying to wake me up. And then I looked up at him, and he was like, "Oh, your best move now. I've called the police. The police are on the way. You shouldn't be fishing here. Blah blah blah." And we just thought, oh, we can't be bothered for this hassle. So we just packed up and left. And that's when we went to, where did we go after that? We probably jotted around a few places. But then again, we went to this country park that I mentioned towards the end of the trip. And we got there, and there is just some unbelievable fishing there. I caught a common. I caught a common a year before, and it was in a book. The year I was born, it was in a book, and it was £17. And so for a wild fish to be that old, to that big, it was obviously fairly old.
Yeah.
In 1997, I think it was in the book. And then yeah, I ended up catching that. So, but there was some other fish in there that we wanted to catch. Some real, like I'm talking like 40, 50-year-old fish.
Right.
And they was just, I think it. Don't quote me on this, but I think it could be the oldest fish in Essex. This particular fish, it's donkey's years old,
Yeah.
and we turned up at the park, and straight away we was walking around. It was like hot, like I said, and we was trying to take them off the surface. And I set my drone up, and we got some really good footage of my mate cast free lining and casting a bit of bread out, and this like big carp just
Nice.
coming up for it. And then in the last
Yeah.
minute, you just see it spook off and turn. And when you're surface
Right.
fishing, it's painful enough to see that happen.
Yeah.
Never mind when someone's on a drone and they can tell you that was a big fish.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a big one.
Yeah, exactly. So it was good, but it was bad at the same time. And when we started to get them like that, we knew that we had to stay. But again, like I say, you're not allowed to night fish, so we took it upon ourselves and we waded across to this island, and
Yeah.
we set up on the island, and that was sort of our base. Once we was there, we was like, right, we're going to stay here for 2 days now. In the daytimes, we're going to venture off back to like not mainland, but you know what I mean, back to like the proper banks, and walk around and try and nick one. And then at night time, we'll come back here and we'll meet back up, and we'll just cook food and put the rods out for the night. And there was 2 fish I wanted to catch. There was this that really old one I was talking about, and another one that was really, really pretty. They're not massive. They're probably like mid-20s, low 30s. Well, I think one's a mid-20, one's a low 30. And on the next morning, we both ventured off our separate ways. We walked the opposite way around the lake to try and see anything. And my mate disappeared into these bushes, and he was before. He's unbelievable at free lining, and before I knew it, I was walking back around the other side of the lake, and I just saw him in the water with a net dug into the ground, and him just like waving me over. And I was like, oh, I'm happy that he's got one, but it's just typical. I've been like walking around this lake like sweating, I can't see anything, and he's caught one. So I go over to him and I'd speak to him, and he doesn't look happy. And I'm like, "What's up? You like, what's wrong?" And he's like, "I've caught it." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "I've got that fish," and it was a super old fish, but it was a recapture for him. And
Ah,
I was like, "Oh, that's typical. I proper wanted that fish. That is why we came here for me to catch that fish." And he's like, sort of accidentally caught it, um, because where it was in like these bushes, and even though it's light and you can have Polaroids on, when the water's like got a shadow over it and it's quite dark and there's very little light anyway, you can't really
yeah.
see what's coming for it. So he didn't know until last minute, and then we sort of laughed it off and was like, "Oh, typical. At least there's one more that I'm going to catch. At least there's the other one." I was like joking around and said, "Yeah, I'll catch that. I'll catch that." So then we spent the next day surface fishing. I went back to the island and there was this big overhanging tree on the island, and I'd sort of climb up onto a branch and I'd be hanging over with my rod. And it seems like cheating, to be fair, because obviously carp. They feel safe around the islands,
Yeah.
um, and the very place that they felt safe was where we were staying. And we was fishing for them there and then, and we caught a few. We caught a common, like a little cricket scrappy common,
Right.
and then we was up this tree, and we could see these like mid-30 commons just swimming around underneath us, and they obviously felt like this tree was a sanctuary place for them, and we was deep inside it, ready to catch them. But unfortunately, we didn't have anything from there. We walked back around the lake again, and my mate caught another one. And I was just, if I saw a fish and it wasn't the one I wanted, I wouldn't try and put too much time in for it.
Hmm.
And I went back to where he caught. I was walking back to where he caught from, and in the margin I saw this fish just quickly from the corner of my eye, and
Yeah.
I was like, "Oh," I was like, that's mine. That is, I'm going to catch that one." And then I walked over it, sort of peeled the trees back, and yeah, it was that pretty mirror, and it was just dead. It was the fish I
Uh,
wanted. That I went there. Yeah, so it took a nasty turn, but
huh.
this
Yeah.
absolutely unreal fish. God knows how old it was, and yeah, it was just in the margin. That's why I saw it in the margin, and it was just dead, and it was super sad because we went all this way to catch two fish, and my mate caught one
Yeah.
of them as a recapture, which kind of takes the shine off it, and the other one that none of us
Yeah.
caught, and we both wanted it. We saw it in the margin,
Huh.
um, dead. So
Huh.
we texted our other mate and just let him know and sent him the photos, and he
Yeah.
was like, "Is this that fish?" And yeah, it was that fish, and I think we were the first people to sort of spot that fish, and I hope now
Yeah.
people it's been sort of passed around and no one's trying to catch that particular fish from the water.
No.
But yeah, it was super sad, and that deflated us really. Um, I'd caught the old common. My mate had caught the that really old mirror, and then the other one we wanted,
Yeah.
yeah, was just lying in the margin. So kind of deflated. We
Yeah.
packed up, traipsed the
Yeah.
gear back across the island, and went onto a new lake. But for me, I think that trip was fairly quiet. I think we
Yeah.
dotted around a few little park lakes and I had a few commons and things like that, but nothing crazy on that particular trip. But it was more, and I say this to everyone. Um, I I probably get more enjoyment out of taking a nice photo of a fish, being with someone fishing, and taking a
Yeah.
photo of the fish than catching the fish.
I'm like
Because
that, mate. Yeah.
and and to be call yourself a fisherman and say that, and it's like, well, you're
Yeah.
not a fisherman, you're a
Yeah.
photographer. But
Yeah.
yeah, well, if that's what you want to say that I am, then I am that, because
Yeah.
I just love the. It's hard to sort of explain what it is, but you just like these moments that like you remember so fondly over time. Your
Yeah.
memories fade and things like that, and sort of they become a bit clouded. But if you get a good
Hmm.
photo, you've got it. That that that
Exactly. Yeah.
that
And when
photo
you
is
show it to the person who's caught the fish, that when they're like, "Oh, mate, that's a great shot," or you're flicking through and you're like, "Oh, that's a good one." That
yeah, and
feeling, it's like, yeah, yeah,
it is,
yeah,
and they had one job to catch a fish, and now you've got one job to like capture that fish with them as best you
yeah,
can. Yeah, and it was. And there was a few times on that trip when he caught some really nice fish, and to get a nice photo was so important. And
Yeah.
I nailed a few shots, and that for me was the trip done. I was happy
Yeah.
with them.
Yeah.
And it going. I used to do a little bit of day ticket fishing as well. I used to really like willows on Lynch Hill.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Lovely water. Yeah.
yeah,
We
yeah.
spoke about that yesterday, actually.
Margin fishing on there was my
Yeah.
absolute dream. And I
Yeah.
went with my mate, and he caught. Oh, I can't remember what it was now, but it's a big common. I think it was around 36 to 38 pound. I can't remember
Like a
what it was.
Chinese common or something.
It,
Is that
it
right?
must have been, yeah. It must have.
Yeah.
I think it was a named fish. I briefly spoke to the bailiff,
Mm.
and it was a named fish, but I can't remember for the life of me what it was. But I got this absolutely incredible shot, and I didn't catch a fish that whole time, but I was so happy. And then a week later, he sent me a photo of the lad that caught it with a big canvas of him and this fish, and he was like putting it up in his room. And I was like, well, if I paid 50 quid for fish to 2 days, and you've ended up getting a nice canvas out of it because you're happy with the shot, then I'm happy.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, photography and fishing,
Oh,
and
brilliant.
obviously we'll get onto the app later, but I feel like it's such an undervalued thing now.
Mm.
Being able to take a photo and being able to tinker with it afterwards,
Yeah.
but not only like for your like personal reasons, like for memories and just remembering the like special times and stuff. But if you're
Hmm.
trying to tell someone a story and then you show them this like diabolical picture, it sort of
Yeah.
takes their shine off it. Whereas if you're telling this
Absolutely. Yeah.
incredible story and then you can turn
Hmm.
around and show them this really nice photo,
Yeah. That
it,
matches the story or just
yeah,
emphasizes what
yeah,
you've said.
exactly. Um,
Yeah. Definitely,
yes,
mate.
so in a weird way, my fishing sort of became less about fishing. To
Hmm.
be fair, looking back now, this is exactly what it was. My fishing became less about fishing and more about taking part until I could take a photo.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I know. I know exactly what you mean, mate. I love it too. And there's quite a few of us, I think, out there. I've had a few on the podcast that are the same. They get just as big a buzz, if not bigger, of being part of someone else's capture.
yeah, and it is such a when you think about it, it's such a weird trait to have.
Yeah, I
But
know what you mean. I think I mention it often. There's a lot of catch fish at all costs type anglers out there, which I get. That's their buzz. I completely get
mhm,
that. But yeah, I'm more of a I want everyone to do well
yeah,
type scenario, and
mhm.
I want to be there and experience it all. So yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it? But I do know exactly where you're coming from, mate.
And then like I say, looking back now, it sort of went from taking part and then taking photos to sort of transition into videos,
Hmm.
um, and wanting to capture not just the fish but everything, whether it's the travel, whether it's like
Yeah,
all the little mundane things, trying to make them look cool or
yeah,
look
documenting the
exciting. Yeah,
process.
and it's just all of that, and hopefully at the end of it, you can show the reward. So you sort of show the process of getting there, setting up, doing all this as best you can and as entertaining as you can, and then finally you'll hoist up this like hopefully huge fish that's really nice, and it's sort of like instead of telling the story, you can be like, look, just watch this. Um,
Yeah,
and I guess that's moving on to the app. I guess that's where the idea of that came from.
yeah. I'm
Um,
keen to talk about this, mate.
and so being at college and at uni and living away, like I said, I left home at 17 for 5 years, and I was never really in the same place for too long.
Yeah,
And whilst I was at uni as well, I had a girlfriend that lived in Cambridgeshire, so it was all really muddled up. I was in Derby, Winchester, Cambridgeshire, and it was all just all over the place. And I find it really difficult to find places to go fishing. And I was like,
mhm,
everyone's got to have this. Everyone's got to have this problem that lives a like sort of on the road life, or if you're traveling for work and things like that. People must have the same problem that I have, and I was like, how can I solve it? Because in this day and age, with technology like it is, we
yeah,
shouldn't be struggling. Um,
yeah,
so I was like, I know what I'm going to do. I'm gonna make a website that people can go on to find places to go fishing, and then
hmm
I started to do that, and then during this same time, I got I really got into it. Like I say, I'm quite obsessive. I got obsessed with filmmaking and cinematography.
Yeah.
And at uni, I would just, if I'm not working or I'm not going out, that's what I'd be doing. I'd be learning cinematography, videography,
Yeah.
all off YouTube,
Yeah.
everything off
Same.
YouTube. And now it just, again, it just completely took over. And I was like, right, I really like that. And then I was going on holiday to Australia for a month, and I was like, I'm going to get some gear. I'm going to make a travel video because that's what I was like. I liked the
Mhm.
intense sort of fast-moving transitions and trying to tell this big story in as little time as possible.
Yeah.
So I bought some gear, went to Australia, was there for a month. I did some crazy things, and I left with a 5-minute video. Um, and it was just like, oh, I've done all of this in a month. It was like skydiving, like scuba diving, all sorts, everything that you can imagine in Australia. We did it, and yeah, I made this 5-minute video, and I looked at the video and I thought, that's not too bad, to be fair. Some of the things they did were pretty cool, and I was like, and most of all, like I enjoyed it, and it forces you to do more things. So I would go somewhere because I knew it was cool, so I could film it, and I'd push
Mhm.
myself to like go and do these like sort of adventurous things so I could get the film. And I really enjoyed that. So I was like, this idea of this Lake Directory website, I'm going to do it as a video. I'm going to make it Netflix as well now. So I'm going to make Carp
Right.
Fishing's Netflix, a Lake Directory on there as well, and screw it, I might as well put some articles on there.
Yeah.
So before I knew it, I had this big idea of how I could solve my problem of not finding places to go fishing, not being able to find lakes and stuff, and then just to share something that I enjoyed.
Yeah.
Um, and then it sort of dawned on me, and it was like, why make a website? Like, not many people use websites now. The world's changing, technology's changing. People use apps. Like if you look at Instagram, they barely touch their website. It's all app
Mm.
based because they know most people spend their time on the phone and not on a computer or something like that. And browsing, why browse on a phone when you can just click on an app? So I was
Yeah.
like, right, I'm just going to do an app. So then I left uni, and then I was like, right, I need some money for this. I'm like, how old was I? 21 years old when I left. No, 22 when I left uni, and I needed some money to create this app and this business idea. So I dropped what I was doing. That there's not much money in the aquaculture industry
Yeah.
as a newbie. Um, so I went to IT, got a fairly good job, and then started to like build friendships with people that could do what I was looking for. So then I was talking to them like, I need to do this. I want to do this. How can I do this? And they would sort of guide me through it. And then I just bit the bullet, and I was like, right, I'm going to go to someone professional.
Yeah.
I knew this guy that made apps for massive housing associations and things like that. And I was like, right, messaged him. I've got this idea, sent him my requirements, and yeah, within a week or so, it was being created, and Carper's Yard started.
Brilliant.
And yeah, from then, like I say, it just it was another thing that just absolutely consumed my time and
Yeah.
everything. Um,
Yeah.
but really, I just wanted this. I wanted this platform on your phone where you could go on it. You could find lakes if you wanted to. You could read up about them. You could watch some quality videos, and then
Mhm.
you can read articles. You can write your own articles, and it was just like this all-in-one platform. And after about 4 months, I think it was. Yeah, was in the thick of it, and it wasn't easy going from nothing to try and create this like sort of
Yeah.
groundbreaking app, so to speak, within the fishing industry.
Yeah.
Um, and for me, being original is so important. I don't want to be seen as the guy that's copying someone else or anything like that. Everything that we do, we try and be the first to do it. So
Mhm.
I got really, really sort of obsessed with someone beating me to do this app, um,
Right.
and to the point it got quite bad. I'd wake up every morning and I'd be on social media checking that no one's done something similar, because I'm not bothered about competition. It completely doesn't bother me. I know what we've got is unbelievable,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
being deemed a copy was the
Yeah.
ultimate no-no.
Yeah.
So I wasn't rushing to get it out, but I wasn't taking any breaks.
Hmm.
So I'd spend days and days without sleep. And like I said at the time, I had a girlfriend, and I'd spend a lot of time at her house.
Yeah.
And the parents would say night to me. She would say night to me. I wouldn't go up to bed, and I'd just spend the whole night at my desk working. They would come down in the morning and be like, "Have you gone to bed?" And I'd just have to like shrug it off. Yeah, and there was numerous weekends, and I was working a full-time job at this point as well.
God. Yeah.
Um, yeah, and there was just numerous weekends where I just didn't sleep at all, and it got silly really because
Mm.
I I wouldn't want to waste time cooking. It got to that. I,
Yeah.
I thought even leaving my desk and cooking was wasting time, so I created this weird
Yeah.
high energy meal, which was was a mixture of ice cream, Cheerios for a bit of fibre and goodness,
Yeah.
and then syrup. And I'd eat that. Yeah, it was brutal. And I'd eat
It
that.
sounds like a bodybuilding bulking scheme
Yeah,
from
I
the
know. Yeah,
90s or something.
but I'd eat that like 3 times a day to try and keep me energized and awake. I'll be smashing energy drinks, and I was doing this all in secret um, because I
Secret eater.
because because I knew people would tell me not to do it, and people would be like,
Yeah.
"What you're doing is unhealthy," and blah blah blah. So I'd end up lying to people, and I was I was I was drinking all of these energy drinks and then taking caffeine tablets. It was just silly things like that.
Yeah.
And I look back now,
You
I
have to be
think these are
careful with stuff like that, mate.
exactly yeah. And it was all in secret because exactly like you've just done, people would be like, "That's stupid.
Yeah.
Don't do that." But I just thought if I wasn't doing it,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have performed like I did. And it got to the point where it started to like affect relationships and friendships because
Yeah.
I wouldn't
And
want to
probably your health.
exactly yeah because I wouldn't even want to go out with my friends or my girlfriend or my
Yeah.
parents because if I went out, I wasn't doing my app. Um,
Yeah.
so straight away, if they asked me to do something, I'd be like, "Oh, I don't know." They would nag, and
Yeah.
I'd go out and do it, but I'd be in a hump because
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
doing my
Yeah. You
work.
think I should be doing this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so
And you can't switch it off.
it did really get quite bad, and then it, all along I was like, I hope it's worth it, I hope it's worth it.
Yeah.
And then it came to fruition. You know, I started speaking to a few people. Like I got the buy-in from a few anglers because obviously being unknown, completely unknown, no one knew of
Hmm.
me before this at all. Um, to then try and approach people and be like, "Oh, let me come and film here," or "Do you wanna do something with Carper's yard?" And they're like, "What's that? Who are you?" Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah. I
try
do
and
know what you mean.
yeah,
Just on that point before you move on, I absolutely know what you mean. And you get a hell of, it's like anything in business, you get a hell of a lot of no's before you get that first yes. And you have to provide somehow, you have to find a way of providing a shitload of value to them up front for free.
hmm
And that'll be your in. And you'll get one guy, one name in sort of air quotes on board, and then it'll start to snowball. And then you'll very soon, you'll be at the point where people are suggesting people or people know people and they say, yeah, I'll try him. Yeah, he's willing to come on. So, yeah, fair play for sticking with it.
yeah. And for like you say, you get. I was messaging people all the time, and they were saying they would either not reply to me or I just get a hard no.
Yeah.
And then it was sort of like, oh, how am I going to do this? And thankfully, I got in with Nash, and I messaged them, and they, out of everyone that I messaged, they were super sweet about it.
Yeah.
And they was like, yeah, we've got some lads that will be happy to do this, and they put me in contact with some of their lads, and then
Yeah.
it sort of, like you say, it snowballed from there. People saw that I was filming with like Steve Briggs and Mike Wilson and Henry and stuff like that, and they'd be like, yeah, now if they trust you, we sort of trust you.
Yeah. It's just building, it is exactly that, building trust. It's like nobody knows who you are initially. How did you go about then when you started, just to interrupt, when you started getting all those no's? Did it ever deter you?
Um, it didn't because I understood why they were saying no.
Yeah.
Um, at that time, I didn't have much to show them. It was an idea.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, so I totally understood why they were saying no, and if someone came to me and was like, if someone messaged me on Instagram and was like, can I do some videos for you? I'd be a bit hesitant. And obviously these big companies have got big reputations to keep, and they
Yeah.
can't let someone go out that's going to do an absolutely shocking film with one of their associated anglers and put it out to the public, because obviously it's them
Yeah.
that sort of get on the
It's their
knock-on
brand, isn't
effect.
it?
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, thankfully Nash just took a. To be fair, the Europe video that we did, that was my in route. So once I had that, I sent a trailer off to Nash.
Yeah.
I sent it to Alan. Alan sent it to the
Yeah.
marketing team, and then
Yeah.
it got around there, and they sort of saw what I could do, and then yeah, like I say, they put me in touch with a few of their anglers. And then another thing I did is, naughtily, I went to all the shows. Well, not all of them. I
Yeah.
went to a few shows, and I'd walk around and I'd just talk to anglers.
That's not naughtily. Why is that naughtily?
Because I felt like there was all of these stands there. There was a few like website stands and stuff, and then I would like go and talk to them, like, "Oh, you're right," act sort of dumb. They'd be like, "We're doing this, blah blah blah," and then I would venture off and go speak to this angler and be like, "Look, this is what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Do you want to be a part of it?" And it sort of felt like I needed a stand there, but I wasn't. I was just dressed in a casual jeans and a top, and I was walking around
Oh,
talking to all
mate.
these people,
Yeah,
showing them.
I wouldn't worry about stuff like that. I had a stand at not Brentwood this year, last year, and I just had a band. And I thought I've not really got anything, It's just I'm sitting here just waiting for people to come past and talk. So I did the exact same thing. I had a stand, but I just wandered off and started going talking and meeting people and chatting to people.
And that's
It's just it's networking.
exactly, that is exactly what I said it was. And I went there to network, and it worked, because that was the first time I could really show them the app.
Yeah,
And then I showed it to them, and then, yeah, they was like super happy about it. And then obviously word went around their offices, and I had more people messaging me like, we've been speaking to Mike and Henry. We know what you're doing. We want to get
yeah,
involved. And yeah, it just snowballed, like you said. And I won't hold it against anyone. Obviously not for saying no, because I totally understand it. But for me, the success came or comes because it's going to continue in terms of when they approach me. So the
yeah,
people that I've said no are now coming to my Instagram. They're liking my videos. They're messaging
yeah,
me, and they're following me, and it's things like that. And I'm like, if only you knew I was messaging. You probably don't even know, but I was messaging you like
yeah,
8 months ago, 8 to 10 months ago,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I just weren't getting anything back from you. So for me, that was the first kind of taste of success. Like that's what
I know exactly what you mean,
I
mate.
started.
Obviously, because I've been there doing this,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I never see. I'm relentless. If I think something's going to work, or I've got a feeling it's going to work, I'll go after it. Similar to you, and I know in other aspects of business and stuff that I do, a lot of the time, a no isn't a no. It's just not a yes yet. That's
Yeah,
how I see
exactly.
it.
Yeah,
So,
that's the
yeah,
perfect way to put it.
and yeah,
Um,
exactly. And it's just timing it. And like I do other stuff not related to fishing, and everything is about timing and just asking at the right point.
mhm.
And that is life. It's pretty much everything. Same with I've realised everything: business, family, kids, friends, relationships. And it's like you said, if you build up that trust beforehand, you get to the point you don't even have to ask.
Exactly.
That's the beauty of it, definitely.
Yeah, so for me, it was when the first kind of taste was when people were coming to me and asking me to be on. That was the first kind of taste of success, and then the day it went live, I was if I got no one use the app, then I got no one use the app. But I knew that I worked my hardest. There was nothing more I could have done.
Yeah,
And what I created, if people aren't using it, it might be for another reason. But I know it's
yeah,
not
of
because
course. It's you
I.
have to. Sorry to interrupt you again. You just have to detach emotion from it because
Mhm.
as soon as you start putting emotion and thinking, "Oh no, they obviously don't like me, or I've done something wrong," it's not that. It's like the same with my thing. Loads of people just don't know about it yet. They'll probably love it if they know about it. It's just putting it in front of people.
Yeah, exactly. And I the sort of relief I not relief, but the comfort I got was that I knew if it didn't kick off, I know that this is the best carp fishing app out there. There's nothing like this. Just the quality, how it looks, and just everything about it is just unreal. Like the developer did an absolutely amazing job at designing it and creating it, and I just know for a fact that that is the best carp fishing app out there. Which I don't think is a hard thing to do at the minute because there's not many, but I think it will take some beating as well. So
how much back and forth was there with the developer? Talk about that a bit if you can, mate.
So I had this, like I say, I had this idea for ages, and it was building and building and building, and I did a lot of driving at the time. This all is in the story, don't worry. But I did a lot of driving at the time because I had a long distance relationship, and I'd spend like 6 to 8 hours in a car each way on a weekend to go and see her. So I did a hell of a lot of driving, and that's where all of my thinking came in. So I just mute the radio because noise just distracted me, and I'll just sit and think whilst I'm driving and pass time. And I would start with an idea when I got in the car, and by the end of it, I've sort of like perfected the idea, well, what I thought was perfected. And then I'd do the next drive, and then I'd start with that perfected idea, and by the end of it, I've got like this unbelievable idea, and like everything's done, and it just sort of build like that. So in terms of back and forth with the developer, there wasn't a lot, but in my own head, there was tons of it.
You've done it all sort of, there was the prelims beforehand.
There was months and months of it, and I knew exactly what I wanted. I knew how I wanted it to work. I knew all of these different things. So I went to him with my requirements, and obviously when you're designing an app, Apple are quite strict, so you need to, it can't just be any shoddy app for them to publish it. So I said I gave him like this really, really rough sketch of what I wanted, and it wasn't far off from what I've got now. He obviously tidied it up a little bit, made it look pretty, but yeah, there wasn't much back and forth between the developer at all, because, like you said, I did it all whilst I was covering around 20,000 miles, and them same journeys, I thought of like loads of other things that I was going to do, and it was really all down to them that I had this time to think, because when you're driving, you can't do anything else. So whereas like when you're not driving, there's loads of things you can do. So it was kind of like a way to just sit down and do nothing apart from just
it forces you into it, doesn't it?
So lots and lots of thinking about the design, how I wanted it to be used, what I wanted on there, who I wanted to use it as well, because I feel like that's important. And I, like I said, went to the developer. He smashed it out. I think there was probably 2 iterations of it. He gave me a colour that I didn't like. He went for sort of a light, a white and green, and I was like, no, I want it sort of dark. I feel like in cinema, and you go to watch a film and like cinematography and stuff, it's all really dark graded. And so I was like, I want a nice dark, like dramatic app. So I think that was the only really back and forth between us. But apart from that, it was apart from the work, it was all quite simple and straightforward. There was no real decision making or anything like that, purely because I spent a year already doing it. And at the point, if I started it when I first got the idea, it would have failed horribly because I would have rushed it. But the fact that I couldn't start it meant I had to sit on my hands and I had to think about it. Even though I didn't want to sit on my hands and think, I had to. So it gave me more time to perfect the idea and go into him, smashed it out, got it back, and then got it. I think within 2 weeks I was publishing it to the App Store when I got it. So it wasn't like a long process. In terms of all the decision making and things like that.
Because you've done it all beforehand.
And then it was just a case of like, oh, now what do I want to put on there? What sort of content do I want? What's my real first video that I want on there? And like I said before about these like England, UK road trips, really enjoyed them. So then I spoke to my mate and we was like, I just finished unit at this time and I was sat having my meal for my dissertation and I was texting him about fishing and we was like, let's do it, let's book it. So we went online and we just booked some spots on Lake Bled and we had 2 weeks to plan the rest of the trip. We had 2 weeks to plan to get from Derby to Lake Bled, which I don't know how many thousand miles away it is, but I think it's about an 18-hour drive.
Right.
And we had 15 days of fishing to plan. We didn't have any venues, and we just had 2 weeks to sort it all out. But I knew I wanted this to be, because it sort of combined my traveling experience of filmmaking and obviously fishing. So I was like, right, this could be good. And that's what I want to launch the app. That video will be my master video. So I need to do it. So we went and did it. We filmed it, and like I said, going back to being different, the Euro videos are being done more and more now, and they are super good. But we wanted to put a bit of a different spin on it, and just make, if people were watching it, we wanted them to be like, yeah, that's a Carper's Yard video. So it was like, how can we make it cool and entertaining, and like doing all these like little transitions to not only like emphasize the places we were, because you can't just not film the scenery. Although it's boring and you're not fishing, I can't just not film it for you to not know where we are.
Yeah, you need to tell a story, don't you?
Yeah, so the whole picture, so to speak. And it was like, it is boring. People complain about it all the time. Like, you see it on videos like, oh, why did I want to watch a swan swim across the water for 5 seconds? So I was like, I need all this like sort of scenic B-roll, but how can I make it entertaining? And it was by adding all of these like sort of funky transitions here and there. And then I went with this idea. I had a sort of a sketchbook, and it had like all the shots that I wanted to get, so I was all prepared. And we set off for our Europe trip, and that was just like next level. We left towards the end of August, I think we left, and we obviously the end goal was Bled. The end goal was Bled, and we wanted to do a few stops on the way and a few stops coming back. The plan was to go from England to Belgium, Belgium to Amsterdam, Amsterdam to Germany, Germany to Slovenia, Slovenia to Italy, Italy to France, France to home. So it was a big circle going clockwise around Europe. And we left for Belgium, and we was going to Ghent. And it's the first time we've driven in Europe. Like I say, was in a really old Polo, dead small. It was packed with fishing gear. We was going away for like 15 days, I think it ended up being 15, 16 days. And there was two of us cramming all our fishing gear into this little car. Like, it was a 3-door car. It was just how we did it, I don't know.
Like the game of Tetris.
Yeah, it was exactly that. And we had about 60 kilos of bait rammed in there somewhere, all our clothes, and it was just crazy. And it just packing the car alone was worthy of a video. So we went to Belgium, and we was fishing in Ghent. I saw a video on YouTube of this guy fishing in this really central spot in Ghent, and I was like, that is cool. That would look cool on video. So we need to go there. And he held up like this unbelievable £30 common in front of all of these bars, and there was a police officer with a Tommy gun in the photo in the shot. So I was like, right, that is seriously cool. So that's our first stop. So we went there, and it was smack bang in the city, so you're parking in big multi-story car parks, like driving on the other side of the road for the first time, and it was just all a bit chaotic. And we pulled up, and we went to a tackle shop to start with, and we got speaking to this guy that owned the tackle shop, and we was just talking to him about fishing. Then he was like, "Why are you here? You've come a long way." And I said, "I saw this video on YouTube, and I just know I needed to fish here. Where is it?" And he was like, show me the video. So I showed him. We sat down in his office with his dog and him, and we loaded up YouTube, and we just watched this video together. And he started laughing, and we looked at him like, oh, why is he laughing? And he was like, 1 second, and he got his phone out and he called the guy that was on the video. So he actually knew him, and he called the guy. And he put us on the spot, and he was like, it's going to be difficult now because it's like really, really busy. We could have found the spot. It was fairly obvious where it was if we like just walked around. But yeah, he was nice enough to put us on the spot, and he was like, "It's going to be really busy, but here's another spot that I caught from last week." Um,
Wow.
so yeah, it's people like that that sort of make these trips, and it's
Yeah.
me. Like, I have no idea what the guy's name is. I don't know the name of the tackle
Yeah.
shop, but massive big ups to the tackle shop and that guy,
Yeah.
because he didn't need to do that, and I'm a
No,
complete
it just
stranger.
shares the passion.
Exactly, and we have in common is we like fishing.
Yeah.
And that was enough for us to sit in his little office with him and just have a drink and chat. And we was just, I don't know, it was like we've been mates for ages, and it was all because we shared
Yeah.
the same passion. Um,
Oh, mate.
and we pulled up at the real central spot, and we was fishing there. We knew we wouldn't catch it. Knew we wouldn't get a bite from there. It was just crazy. There was boats going past on tours, but we just had to try it just in case. So we gave it about an hour and a half, and then we went off to the other spot where he mentioned, which was a bit on the outskirts of the city. He was fishing right in front of these big private banks. There was like Mercedes G wagons everywhere, and like Teslas, and just like proper nice cars. And then my old banger just pulled up in the middle of us with two smelly tramps coming out with full of fishing gear. And we'd rock up, and we would just lay our beds out on this like concrete sort of platform that was the side of the canal. And
Yeah.
on the first night, I ended up catching like this really nice common. I didn't weigh it. I don't think I weighed it. I'm not a fan of weighing fish, which is kind of weird, I know. But I didn't weigh it. I think it was probably around upper double, lower 20s. But it was a really,
Yeah.
really nice common, and we thought, yeah, we're going to have it half here now. So we carried on fishing, and nothing came of it that evening. And then we was meant to leave, but we thought, no, we've got to give it another shot at the city centre. So we stayed the night in the same spot where I caught from. I didn't catch out. My mate had a bream, and then in the morning we nipped back off to the city centre, got some food, fished in that same central spot again, and then went to like this sort of castle. It was like right next to a castle, and we was looking at it, thinking if we caught a fish from here, this would be unbelievable, because there's a massive like Belgium castle in the background, people doing tours around it. It would have just been crazy, and the photo would have just been unbelievable. So we pondered it, and then we thought, we sat there and we counted about 10 boats go past, and they would obviously pull up in this like little bay sort of area, keep the motors running whilst they did a tour and spoke about the castle. And
Right.
there was no chance there was any carp living there. It was just, there was so much traffic. And when we did speak to the guy at the tackle shop, he basically said this spot's only good in winter because there's not much boat
Right.
traffic and
It's
stuff
quiet.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like I say, we couldn't just go there and leave it. So we tried a lot, but nothing came of them spots, unfortunately. I will go back in the winter, maybe this winter, to try and catch one, because if I've ever had a target in fishing, that is it, to catch a fish from that spot.
Right.
So that is one of my goals that I'm going to set myself. If we are allowed back out in the country, back outside of the country this year, then
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to go there. So
Nice.
from there, the next stop was Holland. So my mate jumped in the car this time. He drove to Holland, and we was fishing this really sort of it was in Amsterdam, and it was sort of on the outskirts, and it was right next to this cafe. My mate put us on there because he caught from there before, and we turned up, and it was just dire. There was just nothing about. All the canals were like sludge. It was just hot. It all looked stagnant and horrible. I'm not
Right.
sure how like the waterways work in Amsterdam, but someone was sort of telling me that they get flushed. I'm not sure how true that was, but it all did look really stagnant. So we knew that spot wasn't going to do anything. So, and then just as luck has it, around the corner there was this like bike stand that were hire bikes, obviously Holland and bikes. So it was like, screw it, let's go get a bike. So there was me and my mate, both like 22, and we've hired this bike, and there's a little well, not a little basket, there's quite a big basket in the front, and he's jumped in that basket with all the fishing gear, and we're cycling around like two idiots with all our fishing in this like big sort of tub in the front of the bike, trying to maneuver it around all the tight bends and miss all these other bikes that are coming towards us, and we just pedalled all the canals all day just trying to find fish. And we I would love to know how many miles we covered on that bike with someone in the front, and it was hard work. And then we stumbled across this like sort of weedy bay again. This was after about an hour and a half of pedaling, and we saw this one common. And I'd already had a fish by this point, so I sort of passed the reins to my mate. And was like, "Look, you go for it." Unfortunately, we didn't catch that one, and that was the only fish we saw in Holland. And we walked around this massive marina and all of these like canal systems, and we just couldn't find anything. And then we pulled up. We got back to where the car was, and there was a bit of like probably a 5-minute walk away. There was another sort of basin type thing, and we was like, yeah, we're just going to do the night here. It looks all right. We've seen a few, like, we thought we saw a few bubbling. God knows what it was, but it definitely wasn't carp. We set up, cast out, and then the drop must have been about a foot. So God knows what this sort of basin was, but it was super shallow. And we thought the first one was just cast it off and was like sort of wrote it off and was like, oh, that's just a bad spot. So we had a little cast around, and yeah, nowhere on this basin was over a foot. God knows what it was, what it was used for. But yeah, it was just about a foot deep, and we just knew that nothing was going to happen. So at about 9 o'clock, we'd been in Holland. We'd been in Amsterdam for around 12 hours at this point, and we just thought, screw it, let's go to Slovenia a day early. So we got in the car at 9, absolutely shattered from all this cycling all day. And I don't know what it is.
Smelling lovely.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't know what it is, but just something comes, like the minute you get in the car, you just like awake again. And we was like stopping at this, and again, it's these sort of things that I'm like remember fondly. And it's like stopping at the services and buying all these weird snacks and getting loads of energy drinks and filling yourself up on energy drinks. And it ended up being I got in the car, I got in the driver's seat at 9 o'clock, started driving to Slovenia, which is a 14-hour drive. And yeah, we got in the car at light, drove through the night, and then right at the end, I was like really, really struggling to stay awake. So
yeah,
I passed the reins to my mate. He'd had a few hours sleep, and he did the last 2 hours through Austria and stuff. And we was going to stop in Germany, but we just binned it off and just went straight to Slovenia. And I remember, like, if you ever go to Bled, you drive down this road and you just see this like glimpse of blue through all these bushes, and it's just like, oh, that's the place we came for. It's like,
stunning.
If someone blindfolded you, dropped you in a location, and took the blindfold off without even seeing the water, you could tell that it's that sort of place.
Yeah,
and it was like we didn't even have to like see the water or the church or things like that, and we just knew that this was the sort of, I don't know, it just had this vibe about it.
Like magical.
Yeah, exactly. And we spent at this point we had no hotel to stay in, we had nowhere to sleep, and you can't sleep on the banks at Bled, you can't camp or anything. There's no bivvies or anything like that, so we had nowhere to stay, and we had all this fishing gear that we wanted to be safe. So we was frantically in the last 2 hours of the drive trying to book an Airbnb, but everyone kept rejecting us, presumably because they thought it was weird that I was trying to book something within an hour, or I had no rating as well. I was like a brand new account, so they kept saying that. But thankfully, we messaged this one woman, and we ended up staying in a room in her house. It was kind of a weird setup, but it did us. We wasn't there for much of the time when we was at Bled, because obviously it was by the lake. But the first day we got there, we went to this campsite and we got bikes, and then we was just cycling. And what got me is the water. Obviously, from the photos you see it blue and stuff, but it's just crystal clear. Like you could peer over, and you could just see no matter where you looked, you could see the floor from the bank. You could see like the lake bed, and it was just crystal clear. And we saw on our cycle round, we saw a few guys pulling a few fish out down one side of the lake, And we thought, yeah, at least we've seen a fish now. We sort of know that they could be down here. Who knows if they're going to be down here tomorrow? But that's the best we got to go on. So we had a little swim. We chilled out that night because it was our first real night's rest. We went back to sort of gear out, and within 30 minutes, we was both just flat out, waking up to an alarm at 4 a.m. to start our first day's fishing. And we, like I said, we had bikes, and we was loading ourselves up full of gear. Well, not full of gear really. We had unhooking mats and nets and rods and stuff, and bait. That was the heaviest thing to carry. Trying to carry a bucket of bait on a bike and ride up these hills and down hills, it was a nightmare in the pitch black. Because fishing on Bled's only allowed from the dawn till dusk, or or like an hour after dark, or 4 till 11, something like that. There's some rules to it. And we obviously didn't want to get thrown off or banned, so we completely stuck to all the rules there. We had 3 days fishing, and then got there on the first day, absolutely chucked it down. It was obviously really trying to film and fish. It was really quite difficult, as you spoke about before. And the added pressure was there on me because I knew I needed this video for the app. I knew I needed this to be my masterpiece, and I needed to catch fish. And at this point, although we've done some really cool things and been to some really cool places, we've only caught 1 fish, and that's not good enough. So the pressure was there to catch fish from Bled, because this was sort of make or break. And then on the first day, I had this. We found a spot, and then we put loads of bait in, and then because we knew it was going to be there, we were session fishing basically,
right?
And we were dedicated enough to get up as early as possible to come and get our spot, so we could make sure, even if we was catching, no one's going to see it and jump in before us. So on the first day, we got there, put bait out, and I had this absolute screamer. Started playing it, and then it got in, and obviously we was fishing in 12 to 13 meters of water, over quite a big spot, and playing it up from them sort of depths was strange for me as it is. And then I saw this absolute enormous common just like roll on the surface, and me and my mate just like looked at each other and was like, "Oh my god, like that is it. That's the fish we need." Carried on playing it, quite nervous at this point. I don't know what I was doing, but I was doing like, I don't know if it was the nerves that got hold of me, but basically I lost this fish. I had a hook pull, and then little did I know that was the start of quite a series of events on Lake Bled. So I had that fish. So I lost that first fish, and it was a massive common. God knows how big it was, but it was. It's got to be upper 40s, £50. And for the first day on Bled, we was like, if we caught that, we would have been happy. It would have took the pressure off. We've caught a unit, happy days. But no, we've lost it. So now it was more like there's more pressure on. So got the rods back out, got fishing, and I think I caught another one. Well, hooked another one, and then again lost it. And then, long story short, over the next 2 days, I ended up losing 4 fish. God knows why. I was just having hook pulls, super confident in my rigs. I knew I've used them everywhere. Didn't know what was causing it. So then I put a size 2 on, and I noticed that there was a lot of fish showing beyond the spot, but I had 10-foot scopes and I couldn't cast them. So I was like, right, the only way I can get my rod out, my hook bait out there, is if I swim it out. So I took this plastic bucket and I filled it with a few boilies, put my hook, my rig in it, and I sort of closed the lid, and that was my buoyancy aid. And I just swam as far as I could out, and dropped this rig. And at this point, I'd upped everything because I didn't know. I've been changing my rig and chopping and changing everything, and I sort of thought it might have been my hook size. I was using size 4s. I was like, maybe I need a bigger hook. So I went to a size 2, dropped my rig, swam back, out of breath, absolutely knackered. But it was my turn to go to the shop. So my mate watched the rods. I went to the shop and I got a phone call just as I got to the shop, which was to cycle around Blair, it's like a 300-acre lake, and to get to the other side, it's a long old bike ride. And when you get a call from your mate telling you that your rod's going off, it feels even longer. But I got back to the rod and I started to play this fish, and I got it in, and I was a bit concerned because it didn't feel that big. Got it in, yeah, and it was just this really, really small mirror, and it was just all this hard work of like swimming my rig like 180 yards out and upscaling to a size 2 hawk, and then cycling back all the way from the shop like out of breath. And yeah, it was for like this really small mirror. But it was kind of nice as well because although it was a small fish, I got the shot that I wanted to. I got me holding a fish with Bled in the background, with the castle in the church in the background, sorry. And really, that is what we went for, a picture of a fish with that in the background. And then sort of from there, the session just picked up. My mate was fishing on the same spots as me, and he caught a few. I think he caught a 24 common and a 26 mirror. But painfully, all the fish after that first one I caught were coming in the last hour of light. So between 10 and 11, we were having all of our runs. It was sort of not worth fishing till that time. And it came to 10 o'clock. We were super confident. By this point, my mate had, like I say, he'd had a few fish, and we was like, yeah, it's either going to be you catch one or me catch one. His rod screamed off. We're playing it in, and then just as we get it in, my rod's gone. So then now it's like panic stations. There's like 2 of us. We've both got like mega fish on. We're trying to like run around each other so don't get tangled, and it was just comical on its own. And at the same time, you've got like this thought in your head. It's like, well, you need to film this. But then it's like, how can I film it? How is it possible that I film this shot now? So fishing overruled filming, because if we don't catch fish, there's going to be no film. So we just played the fish, got them in. My mate had, I can't remember what it was, but it was another, I think it was a mid-30 common, and I caught this 44-pound mirror, and it was pitch black. And I caught this like really, like it was quite a weird shaped fish, but it was a 40, and it was from Lake Bled, and I wanted the church in the background, but it was pitch black, so it was like, right, that's not going to happen. So we got the shot the best we could with a little glimmer of the church in the background. And that night, I think we ended up having 4 fish, with the biggest being the 44 that I caught, and my mate caught 3 others, a common, 2 commons, and a mirror. And then you get, if you're fishing after 11, you get caught, you get fined. And because we'd had so many takes after 10 o'clock in the last hour, we ended up fishing over 11. Not intentionally. So we were like trying to reel all the rods in so we didn't get caught. And we packed up and we left. And we at 11 o'clock would load the bikes up, drive back to the hotel, and then come back the next morning. And we was probably getting 3 to 4 hours sleep a night, if that. And we started to get really tired, and we concluded that our best bet because obviously energy for fishing is massively important. And our best bet was to try and get more sleep. So, naughtily, instead of going back to the hotel, we would hide in bushes again and sleep on our hooking mats, and we would sleep in like bushes out of the way until the morning, because it saved us like an hour of traveling, probably 30 minutes traveling each way. So we got an hour's extra sleep. So a few of the nights we was cooped up in these bushes on a hooking mat, trying to get some sleep. And then we was set to leave, and I think I'd lost about 5 fish by this point. My mate had caught 3, and I just had this feeling that we shouldn't leave. Like, it's got more to give than what it's done.
Yeah.
So we
had your mate lost any at that point?
No, he didn't lose any, and we was using exactly the same rigs. I think,
weird, isn't it?
Yeah, it was so weird, and I think it even got to the same point. He's a good angler, he's a competent angler, but I was just doing something with my rig that he liked. I was like, it was like I don't know the name, what the name of it would be, but it was sort of like a combi rig with like a stiff like boom, and then I would like I created this like loop, like this subtle loop that I was like looping my hook on because I wanted to change my hook every time without tying a new rig.
Almost like a multi-rig, but on a combi rig.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And I was tying that for him because he just couldn't do one component of it.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was landing them all, and so people are like, "Oh, maybe it was your rigs." And it can't be my rigs because I was tying them for the guy that was catching all of these fish. And
is that how you play the fish? I've got a mate that plays fish absolutely savagely to the point where it's comical to watch.
To be fair, I think if it was anything, it was the other way around. It was I was so nervous that I was playing the fish like an idiot because I was so scared, and I wasn't giving them enough, and I was being too much of a wimp, and it was just that was the problem, if anything.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So
let them take line and
and I was just being a pansy about it because I just knew how important these fish were for the film. So I sort of concluded that was it, and it's hard because I've lost. By the time I've lost, my mate always says to me now he feels comfortable to say it to me, but he's like, I honestly thought he was going to cry. I lost the fourth fish, and I just sort of threw my rod down in anger, and I just looked at him, and I think my voice was cracking, and it was something like EastEnders, and I was like, "What am I doing wrong?" And it was just, if I could have got that on film, that would have been funny enough. And like,
the emotion and everything that must have been horrid all that way.
Exactly,
such an iconic place.
And I'm fishing, and I'm like I say, I was swimming my hook baits at 180 yards, and all I got in reward was this like £7 mirror. Up until I got not until I got this 44-pounder, which at the time was the biggest fish we'd caught. So that night we was like, right, we're going to get another hour's sleep, and we're not going to leave. We're going to curl up in a bush because we were prepared. It's going to be cold. I had like a shroud. I'll wrap it around us, and we'll just sit here. No one's going to come round. We're not fishing, so we're not breaking the fishing rules, but we're breaking the you can't sleep on the bank rules. But that's fine. I'll take my chances for an extra hour's sleep. So then we woke up, had another day's fishing. I didn't catch anything, but my mate again had a few. It was all fishing the same spot. It was kind of luck who was going to catch one. We had 4 rods out, both doing the same thing, both on the same bait, and it was just who's gonna get the next one. But just so has he was fishing the left, I was fishing the right. The fish might have been holding up more in the left because he was having more. But we started to make friends with this guy next door. He was from the Czech Republic or something like that. He couldn't speak a word of English, but we was talking. Again, this is one of the nice things about doing these sort of trips. We were speaking through Google Translate. And we was having a laugh and just having a nice time together. We was helping each other out. If I caught a fish, well, not me. If my mate caught a fish, he would come over and like have a look and stuff. And then when I caught my that big mirror, he came over, admired it, helped us with the netting and stuff. And
oh, cool.
We was like, this is sweet. This guy's all right. So this was on our first extra day. So we was meant to leave a day before, but we didn't want to because we knew Bled had more to give, like I said. So we booked on for 2 extra days, and we changed hotel. And the first extra day, we didn't catch anything, and was like, look, we'll do the next one and just hope that we catch something to end this sort of segment of the video, and hopefully it'll be a whacker. So we said to him, he came up to us, and he saw him putting loads of bait in, and I think we had 2 or 3 fish out on that last day, my mate did, and he was like, are you coming back tomorrow? And we was like, yeah. And he was like, what time are you coming? And we was like, we get here at about 5 o'clock. Because at this point, we trusted him. We thought he was sound. And then, long story short, guess what happens? We come back the next morning. And
he'd have asked me, what time are you coming? I said, probably about 10 in the morning.
And then to him and 2 of his mates, it was schoolboy of us, we shouldn't have been so naive and just trust him. But we just thought... We thought that was the sort of place it was. Like everyone else we met was super friendly. Like we befriended this Italian guy, and he would like cycle around and talk to us, and we would eat with him and take photos with him and stuff. And it was. We thought it was another guy like him, but no. When we turned up for our last day on Bled, him and 2 of his mates were sat in our swim, and it was just like, I don't know. Do you know? it, even if the person next to me was catching like 40 after 40 at 50, 60s, I
Yeah,
would never ever imagine doing that. Especially if
yeah,
I knew that they was coming there the next day.
mate. Same. That's exactly that point that we touched on earlier. I'm like that. They're obviously the catfish at all costs. You know,
Hmm.
I don't know. It's just how we're made, isn't it?
And it's
I almost like I run a couple of businesses, and I think I'm not ruthless enough to run it well.
yeah,
If
got
that
you.
makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah, yeah, totally.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're thinking of, I'm probably exactly the same, and for
yeah,
some reason I just trusted this guy, and yeah,
yeah. I'm like that. Yeah,
we've been working so hard to put this bait in,
yeah,
and I think we put the max you can put in them is 5 kilos a day, and we was putting in that on the spot,
mm,
and
mm.
he would stand there and watch us wrap our rods and stuff.
Oh god,
Yeah, and
yeah.
he knew everything, and we just turned up the next day with him and all his mates in the swim, and just thought like, what a
Did you confront him?
no, because we knew what he would have done. I would have gone up to him and said, like, "What the hell are you doing?" But
Yeah,
the
and
what,
Google Translate.
yeah, what you would have got is, "Oh, I can't understand you," and he wouldn't have got his phone out. And then there was two other lads there, and I was like, I don't know, I do believe in karma, and I was like, right, I'm not going to let this bother me too much.
Yeah,
We had a 40, my mates had a few 30s.
mm,
Let's just crack on. Part of me wanted to go where he was fishing, because he was fishing next to us. Part
right.
of me wanted to go there and just try and like rip
Yeah,
it to bits. But I was
should
like,
just cast over him.
yeah, but I was like, right, I'm not going to let it bother me. I'm not going to sit here near him because it's just going to wind me up all day. If the minute I see him
Yeah,
catch a fish, he's going to get thrown in. So I was like, I'm just going to leave the area. We cycled up further to the right of the lake, and it wasn't too far away from where we was fishing. We obviously knew where, like, the exact spot we was fishing.
yeah,
When we was in the old swim, and we knew how many wraps out it was and stuff, and where we was aiming to. So we sort of swept around to the right and tried to fish as close as we can to that spot,
yeah,
from our new swim, so to speak. Yeah, and then this was on the last day, so within an hour, I had a few bleeps, and I was like, yeah, there's fish around us. It got silly. It really got silly because as you're casting out, you could feel
yeah,
the fish. You'd hit them as you're going down because it's so deep. You'd hit several fish going down, and that's the
yeah.
only reason we stayed in that old spot, because it was
Right.
honestly every cast you'd be like, "Ooh, there's
Yeah.
one,"
Doink,
and
doink, doink,
you'd
doink.
feel the
Yeah.
hard doink of the bottom. And we moved to this other spot, and I cast out, and I felt the same again. And I was like, yeah, the fish are in this area. Then an hour later, rod ripped off again. Guess what? Lost it. Gutted. Last day, I'm like, oh, no, it's still not playing, still not like working out for me. And then my mate's rod's just absolutely gone. And then we're looking at each other like, Jesus Christ. And then it's typical, like a typical big fish. Everyone says it doesn't really do anything. It's just like reeling in a
Yeah.
big sack of potatoes.
Clods.
Yeah. And then that ended up being a 52-pound mirror. I think it was. And yeah, so it was, like I said, like I said, I believed in karma, and that was our karma. We ended up moving spot.
Yeah.
Who knows what we would have caught if we stayed in our old swim? But
Yeah.
to this new one, I caught the biggest fish of the trip, and it was an
Wow.
unforgettable 52-pounder from Lake Bled, and it was in the daylight, so we could actually get the church in the
Yeah.
background. Um,
Oh, mate.
and yeah, and then that just made it. That was like the
Yeah.
cherry on the top. With Bled as well, obviously it's a big public lake, and we was there in the school holidays, I think, and there was loads of people, and like, we're
Right.
hoisting like this big 52-pounder out of the water, and you've got about 30 tourists around you, and there's on the video.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
weighing the
Brilliant.
fish. You can see it. You can see the needle swing around to
Shout
50,
at the top of your voice, learning
and then
what it is in his language.
yeah, exactly. And then
Oh, it's 52 pounds. Google translate that on it.
yeah, it felt like going around and taking it to him and just releasing it in front
Yeah.
of his swim.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Can I just put this back here? It's a bit deeper. Thanks, mate. Yeah.
exactly.
Oh, mega.
So yeah, it all came good in the end, and we caught this. And then we're weighing
Oh,
this
brilliant.
fish. Saw the needle swing around to 52 pounds, and on the video, all you hear is this woman say, "Are you going to put that back, or are you going to eat it?" And you're just there like, how on earth am I going to eat £52 worth of carp?
Yeah.
Like, no, we're going to put it back. But that's the sort of questions you got, and it was
absolutely. Yeah.
it was the conversations with them people that have no idea about fishing, but
Yeah.
you'd still speak to them for 10 or 15 minutes, and then they'll go off and go enjoy their holiday, and it's all them things that add up.
Yeah, brilliant. Oh,
So-
mate, that's mega. Such
and
an
yeah,
awesome story. Well, I'll tell you what, I think you're definitely going to get quite a few more apps downloads by the end of this.
hopefully it's going well so far.
Yeah, also, I reckon there's probably going to be a part 2 in this, only because I've ordered some food and it's due quite soon. We'll definitely do a part 2, Macauley.
Yeah, no worries.
I've got a couple of bits as well to add, obviously, and then we'll sort of wrap up. I realised I didn't brief you on the question from the last guest, but so you're going to have it cold, so to speak.
Oh God,
and the question is for the Rotary letter. What's your biggest bait edge that you're happy to give away? Obviously, don't give away all your massive edges, but is there anything you can give away that might be a bit unique that would work for others?
biggest bait edge. Ooh. Biggest bait edge. What would my biggest bait edge be?
I'll tell you what then, mate. Don't answer that now. Have a think, because obviously, yeah, I was going to say, I've just realised I haven't briefed you to come up with a question either, because when I said, shall we start, I should have given you that before, so that's my bad. What we'll do, if you're about tomorrow, do you want to do part 2 tomorrow?
Yeah, can do.
Awesome, yeah, we'll do that then, mate. All right, yeah, because we're sort of like nearly an hour and 40 minutes in.
Yeah, keep looking at that. God, wonder how
it goes quick, doesn't it?
God, yeah.
No, it's good, mate. No, it'll be a really well received episode. All right, what we'll do, we'll wrap up now, and then we'll continue tomorrow, mate.
Yeah, perfect.
Cool. Macauley, thank you very much, mate.
Thank you.
Really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Take care, mate. Bye.
Bye.